Oh, good morning. Hiya. I hope we're all smashing today. Please do me a big favor. The last time I went live, I was about 20 minutes in before I realized that, in fact, there was no audio. So I'm on my phone right now trying to check if this is actually going out. But if you're seeing it, please do me a favor and tell me if it's live. And please tell me if you can hear me. If I'm live, give me a hashtag live. If you're watching this on the replay, please give me a hashtag replay. Now, annoyingly, I can't seem to see the live, so big apologies. This is probably very annoying if you're watching this. While I'm trying to see if I'm live, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what to expect today. So, I am going to be talking, as always, all things fertility. And today is going to be all about the things that you can do for your fertility and the things that you don't need a prescription for. You don't need a doctor's input for these things. Okay, I can hear myself. Happy days. Okay, right, let's actually just get stuck. Right. Good morning. Good morning. I am Claire Innes and I am the founder of the Fertility Mentor. My big passion is helping women who are either struggling to conceive or women who can conceive just fine but are dealing with recurrent miscarriage or recurrent baby loss. So I work with these women on their nutrition, their egg quality, their health, and I give them the tools that they need to improve egg quality, make sure that their body, their hormones are doing all the right things. If they need to lose some weight, if they need to gain some weight, I'm all about helping women understand their bodies and improve their fertility in any way that they can. So, full disclosure, I am not a doctor. I am not medically qualified. I have been coaching women for the last 11 years. I've been working with women on behavior change, understanding their bodies, and turning what they learn into action to help them make improvements. So, today, my big conversation is all about the 5 things that you can do that no one else can do for you to improve your fertility. Okay, so these are things that, and I speak to women all the time who are struggling to get their doctor to help them. Some women are struggling to even get an appointment with their doctor. Some women are struggling to get a referral. Some of my clients over in the States simply don't have insurance and they can't afford to work with a fertility doctor. So these are the things that I'm going to be talking to you about, things that you can do and frankly you should be doing to manage your own fertility. And if and when you do come to speak to a doctor or you get a referral to an IVF clinic, these are the things you're going to feel better going in, knowing that you've done these things and knowing how to have the conversations. So, number one, I'm going to talk about the kind of biggest mistake that I see, and this is something that is very easy to do once you know how, is really understand your menstrual cycle. Okay. And by that, what I absolutely don't mean is, buying all the expensive kits, the £300 things that test all of your hormones every day. There's really no need for that. If you can afford that, then that is fantastic and good for you. But the best way to actually understand your cycle and therefore your fertile window, if you're ovulating, is by tracking your basal body temperature. And to do that, you do need one piece of kit, but it's not expensive at all. So, what you need is a fertility thermometer or a body thermometer that is going to give you results to 2 decimal points. Okay, so instead of saying you are 36 degrees, it will say you are 36.00 degrees. And I've got a whole other kind of masterclass, which is completely free, all about charting your body temperature. But I'm going to very quickly go into it now and just give you the highlights, okay? Just so that you can understand why you might want to do this and when this information becomes really useful. So to track our body temperature, we want to do it at the same time every day. And to be honest with you, that's the biggest ball ache in this whole process, is actually doing it at the same time every day. But all that is starting a new habit. And once you've done it for, once you've made the effort to do this for 2 weeks, it just becomes part of your day, part of your kind of regular, part of your regular process. So ideally, you want to be taking your temperature in the morning when you wake up before you have come out of your covers. Okay, so easy way to do that is set your alarm for the same time every day. And most of us are using our phones for alarms. Right on the phone, take temperature. Okay, so say you wake up at 7 o'clock every morning. Say Saturday and Sunday, you like to have a long lie. If you're going to be doing BBT charting for the very, very best results, I would still suggest that you set that alarm for that time of that day and you take your temperature and then you roll over if it's a weekend and just go back to sleep. Okay, so you want to take that temperature, you want to take it to 2 decimal points. This is very, very important. And you want to do this every day in your cycle. Okay, now for the information that it gives you to be useful, you're really looking for a good 2, 3, anything upwards of 3 months worth of cycles. And what this is going to show you, what we're really looking for is the change in your temperature throughout your cycle. Okay, so at the first part of your cycle, we would expect you to be a bit of a lower temperature. Okay, so the follicular phase of your menstrual cycle, so that is the phase before you ovulate, and we've all seen this chart. And if I was much more tech savvy, I would be sharing my screen right now, but unfortunately I'm not. So we imagine a graph with a month on it, say 28 days. If your cycle is 25 days or 30 days, don't get caught up on that just now. Just imagine a cycle with imagine a chart with a full cycle on it. Okay, and the first part of this chart before ovulation, typically our temperatures are going to be a little bit lower, typically about 0.3 to 0.5 degrees. That's in Fahrenheit. Is normally about 0.2, zero point 0.3 in Celsius. Okay, we want to track that temperature every day, and what we're going to see is a steady rise. And once we ovulate, it's going to start to rise, and we will know that this is the key thing, to know that you have ovulated. Okay, because you can still get a spike in your temperature as your progesterone rises and you go into the luteal phase. But to confirm that you actually have ovulated, we want a rise of 3 days. Okay. And what that's going to tell us is at the start of that increase, that is when we ovulated. Now, if you have PCOS, I acknowledge and understand that this is particularly difficult, because in PCOS we typically don't see very regular cycles and we often see longer cycles. So this is more for women who have a regular cycle. However, what I will say is if you have PCOS, tracking this is still going to be really, really useful if and when you go to a fertility clinic, or when you go and start dealing with, your gynecologists, your medical professionals. Okay, so we're looking for this information to be useful. We're really looking for a good 2 or 3 months of seeing our temperature in the follicular phase quite low and then coming up and staying high. Now, this can actually be really, really useful even in predicting pregnancy. So not even predicting if and when you ovulate, but if that stays high up until when your period is due, that's often a sign of early pregnancy. But when it comes to fertility, where this process is absolutely worth its weight in gold is that you will get, after a few months, you will understand exactly the day when you ovulate, if you ovulate, because remember, not all of us do ovulate, particularly if we have PCOS or if we are insulin resistant, or there's many, many other scenarios. But this, imagine trying for a few years and then finding out years later that you're not actually ovulating. And I have worked with women who have been in this position. So they've made massive changes to their life, and then they've found out, I'm not even sure if I was ovulating. So this is why tracking your BBT, it is cheap. It is a ball ache to start with, but only to start with. And then once you're used to doing it, it it gives you so much useful information. It's telling you if you're ovulating, it's telling you when you're ovulating. And we know that our fertile window lasts about 5 days. So 3 to 5 days before and including the days of ovulation, that's when we should be having intercourse. Or if we're doing IUI, if we're not looking to use chemicals, if we're looking to do it as naturally as possible, that 3 to 5 days before ovulation is really when you want to be getting busy, making the beast with two backs, doing what you can to get yourself pregnant. Obviously, I'm not saying don't have sex, don't have intercourse out with this period, but please make sure that in that 3 to 5 days before you actually ovulate, you are having sex at least every second day. You don't need to do it 3 or 4 times a day. You don't even need to do it every day, but every second day in the fertile window is what is recommended. Okay? Now, even if this doesn't work, and let's be real, because for all of us, this isn't going to work, this is going to be super useful for you if and when you do go to a fertility clinic, if and when you do get a referral to see a doctor, or if you're in the States, wherever you are, you're going to come with this information. You can have it, you can do it manually. There's loads of apps that do it, and I mean loads of apps. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but it's going to be very powerful for you and very useful for your medical team if you can walk in there and say, I have 27-day cycles. I have had 27-day cycles for the last 10 months, and I ovulate on day 12. If you have got any pattern that you can share with them, that is going to be super, super, super useful for them. Okay. Now, what I often do with my clients as well is once we've got a few months worth of BBT, we can actually look for patterns in there. Okay. So we can look to make sure that they are ovulating within the middle of their cycle. Because if they're ovulating late, that might indicate that they're not producing enough progesterone to support implantation. So we can make changes to their nutrition. I can recommend that they might have discussions with their doctor about progesterone. There's lots of things that are so useful that we can use without even needing a doctor. There's lots of things that our menstrual cycle can and does tell us that can help us make sure we're having a nice balanced menstrual cycle, that we're ovulating in the middle, that we are creating enough estrogen, and then we're ovulating at the right time, and we are having enough progesterone to support implantation. So my opinion is, when it comes to fertility, the easiest thing we can do, it's not expensive, but it is so very, very powerful, is really study and understand our menstrual cycle. And if we're not doing that, then I absolutely recommend you start. You can go into Boots and you can get a menstrual thermometer for, I think it's like £12, and that's all you need. Yes, you can spend hundreds if you want to, and you can get trackers, you can get sticks that you pee on that tell you, whether you're peaking or not. But my opinion is they are not necessary. They can be useful if you can afford it and if it makes you feel better. But what I feel is absolutely necessary, and as I always say, I promise not to bullshit you here, if you're not tracking your temperature, then why not? It's not expensive, and it's something that you can do very, very little time, and that is going to empower you with a lot of information. Okay, so let's move on to number two. And again, I should have said at the start, if you agree, if you disagree, please jump on, please join the conversation. I really, really want to see it. Okay, I want to know what you think. I want to know if you are doing this, if you have tried it and it hasn't worked. If you have any questions for me, just go for it. Okay, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me. So I'm just checking for any comments. Lucy, hi Lucy, hi Rayanne. You've tried two different thermometers and your readings vary a huge amount, literally minute to minute. Can I check? I can check and then check again 30 seconds later and get as much as a degree in fluctuation. So I end up totally lost with it. Do you have any advice? Lucy, this is an absolutely excellent, excellent question. So can I just check that you are checking your temperature at the exact same time? I mean, if it's a few minutes apart, if it's 10 minutes apart, it's not a big deal. But please, can I check as well that you're doing it in the exact same place? I usually ask my clients to keep their digital thermometer on their bedside cabinet, and I ask them to check their temperature in the same part of their body, wherever the temperature tells them to, but also that they are doing it in the same place in their house every day. So if you want to take them, while you're still in your bed, while you're kind of having some stretches and you've still got the covers over your legs, that's what you do every day. If you want to take it while you're sitting on the side of your bed and your legs are out of the bed, that's what you do every day. I will say that a whole degree is quite a big fluctuation, but consistency is key here. So please make sure you're doing it at the same time. And also, what you could probably do is obviously having two different thermometers isn't going to help you because we're looking to see patterns. Okay, so maybe for 1 month use just one thermometer, and then for another month use the other thermometer, but track it and keep the chart, and then after the 2 months compare the two and see if they're showing a similar, the dip and the rise, and whether it's sustained or it comes back down. Study the two, and then, to be honest with you, I doubt very much that both of them are faulty. I've got a feeling that it's probably either taking it in different places, different times of the day, or maybe just the thermometers aren't exactly calibrated exactly the same. But stick with one, at least one per month. Don't get yourself carried away with the two. Lucy, I've only just seen this comment here, so thank you for commenting. I will keep the comment page open if anyone else would like to jump in and join in. Okay, so let's move on to number two. The number two thing that you can do for your fertility that a doctor can't help you with is limit and really understand your chemical exposure. Okay? Now, I know sometimes when people talk about chemical exposure, you're imagining people sitting in a room with a tinfoil hat on, wearing a dress made of hemp. And I promise you, that's not what I'm about to talk about here. I'm about to talk to you about science backed and very, very well studied and very, very well understood ways that we can limit our chemical exposure. And I'm going to very, very quickly tell you why. Okay. So there are chemicals everywhere around us. We're literally breathing in chemicals right now. Most of them are absolutely fine, but there are some big offenders when it comes to chemicals that can disrupt our hormones. Okay, and this has been studied in mice, it's been studied in humans. They are everywhere. Okay, so they are in our water. I mean, the terrible ones aren't everywhere. I'm about to tell you specifically where the ones that you should avoid are. So I'm not scaremongering here. But these chemicals can be found in places that we wouldn't particularly expect, and they can be things that we've been doing all our life, things that we actually spend a lot of money to be able to do. These harmful chemicals that can disrupt our endocrine system, they can disrupt our menstrual cycle, and they can absolutely damage the quality of our eggs. Okay, so yes, again, it's a little bit of a ball ache to start with, but it can make the world of difference. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is BPA. And I'm not going to attempt to pronounce BPA because it's far too early in the morning. I've only had one cup of coffee. BPA is typically found in plastics, it's everywhere around us, but for the sake of this live and for the sake of the conversation we are having here, the main place that I ask my clients to really look out for BPA and to really avoid BPA is plastics when it comes to things that they are consuming. Okay, so BPA can be found in a lot of dishes So, for example, the dishes that we get from a takeaway or Tupperware at home, the things that we microwave our food in, plastic bottles, plastic water bottles, oh my goodness. So, how many of us are guilty of buying a bottle of water, drinking half of it, sitting it down in the car, going away for an hour and coming back? I'm really thirsty. They finish that water. Now, typically BPA, when it's solid and when it's undisturbed, I often think about it kind of like asbestos, okay? Asbestos, when it's not disturbed, isn't doing anyone any harm, and it's quite similar to BPA, certainly the way I think about it. So BPA, say it's in a plastic box that you use to heat up your baked beans. We all use the same one to heat up our baked beans because it stains, don't we? So this dish might have BPA in it, and it might be sitting in front of you and doing absolutely no harm. Okay. But where the harm is caused is when we heat it up and expose it to high temperatures. This BPA can leach out of the dish and into your food. And of course, we all know what we do with our food. So let's think about the example I just gave you. You've got your half a tin of baked beans. Say you're making yourself beans on toast, okay? You want to be making that in a glass or a ceramic dish or a pot. If you are putting it into a plastic dish and then heating it up to really, really high temperatures, then yes, unfortunately, you do run the risk of exposing that food to BPA. And then, of course, you're going to eat that food, aren't you? Same idea with the example I gave you with the water bottle. The water bottle, you buy it cold, it's a plastic bottle, hunky dory, everything's fine. You're drinking it while you're driving around, everybody's happy. And then you leave half of it and it warms up. And by that point, you've kind of cracked the seal, haven't you? The BPA in that plastic bottle can potentially be leaching into that water. You drink the water, and then you're actually taking this BPA into your body. Now, we all have TikTok, we all have Instagram, we all know how nice it is to see all the beautiful, pretty influencers with their glass dishes and they're all out in a nice row. Now, they're doing that because it's pretty, but they're also doing that because it's good for their health. Glass, ceramic, wrought iron. Another really big offender is these pans, like cooking pans that have the non-stick coating. We've all been here, and if we don't do it ourselves, we've probably been there when we were younger. The pan has been used that many times, it's been scraped with a metal fish slice that the black coating starts to come off. That's a big red flag as well, because where is that black coating going? Some of it is likely to be going onto our food that we are consuming. Okay. Now, just really be careful when you're shopping because marketers aren't stupid and they know that people are catching on to BPA being dangerous. So they're marketing things as BPA free, but what they're actually doing is just using another very similar, also harmful chemical that's not BPA, it's just a different version of it. So my advice to you is avoid like the plague non-stick coatings. Just please do not have them in your house. If you buy a reusable water bottle, now look, they're everywhere. They don't have to be expensive. This is a rip-off of a Stanley. I got it from Home Bargains, I think, for £3. Buy reusable water bottles. Only use plastic water bottles when you absolutely have to. And when you do have to, finish it there and then, or while it's cold. Please don't ever go back to water bottles that have been in the boot of your car or that have been sat out that might have warmed up. Okay. Now, back to the plastic dishes because this is probably the hardest thing to implement. Okay. We are all quite guilty of it. We get a lovely takeaway on a Friday night and we don't finish it, so we keep the leftovers in the fridge, and then the next day we microwave that food in the dish. Okay, so there is a danger that when hot food is put into these dishes, when they're brand new, even there's a bit of a danger of BPA exposure, but that's nothing compared to the BPA exposure that we are potentially opening ourselves up to when we heat it up the next day. Okay, we are heating up the food in the dish. And then what most of us do, and again, I've done it myself, okay, we chuck that dish in the dishwasher, we put it in the cupboard that's got mishmashed tops and bottoms, and we reuse it. The next time we've got leftovers, we just chuck them in it, and then we heat up the leftovers in that thing. Or we put it in the freezer and we know that it's a soup. It's a soup that we can cook from frozen. So we think, yep, I'm going to do my meal prep. I'm living life. I'm the absolute fucking best. I've got my soup for the week and then I'm going to freeze it and then I can just microwave it from frozen. No harm done there at all, unless it is in a dangerous a dish. If you are microwaving something from frozen, you are microwaving it probably for a very, very long time and you're opening yourself up to BPA exposure. And most of us, if something's a pattern, say you make that soup for a week and you do that all the way through winter, so that's 3 months. So that's, 5 days a week heating up something in a dish that is not meant to be used for that and potentially. I mean, I really, really hate scaremongering, but I absolutely do not encourage my clients at all to use anything containing BPA. But if you can eliminate it from your life, which not all of us can, let's be real, please, please, please do not heat up food that is in any of these plastic dishes that may contain any traces of BPA. If you need to store food in these dishes, if you absolutely have to, make sure the food cools down first. Make sure that you are not putting it in the dishwasher. Make sure you're cleaning it with kind of warm soapy water and only use it for storage and then transfer to a glass plate or a BPA, a plate or a dish that you know is really, really healthy and safe before heating it up. Okay. And again, if there's anyone still watching this live, I can see some of you here. Hello. Ask the questions. Tell me what you buy. This doesn't need to be an expensive process. Okay. So over here in the UK, Home Bargains tend to have some really good glass dishes. IKEA are really good for it as well. You don't need a cupboard full of them. 2 or 3 is plenty and just take care of them. Okay. The next dangerous chemical I really want to talk about is phthalates. Okay, so this is found in fragrances, perfumed products. So really, I mean, I'm looking around me right now. I'm bad for it as well. I'm not trying to conceive. This is me admitting here. Please do what I say, not as I do. But perfumed products, things like or cleaning things or these sprays that spray into your room and make them spray nice, unless they are made of all natural products, makeup, so fragrance and cosmetics is a big, big offender too. And this is one of the reasons there's been such a rise in clean beauty, okay? Because clean beauty is made from natural ingredients and it doesn't typically have a lot of perfume in it. So there's a brilliant app. I mean, there's loads of apps. There's apps for everything. But my favorite app for minimizing phthalate exposure is called Yucca, which is Yuki. And Yucca will give you really, really good ratings. I think it's a percentage on how offensive something is. Okay. So I'm going to try and think of the really best examples, most relatable examples. Method cleaning. Okay, nobody had heard of method like 5 or 6 years ago, but now because people are becoming aware of hormone disrupting chemicals and because people are really understanding the actual damage it can do, there's these lovely new brands that are coming out with all natural ingredients, natural essential oils that are providing those lovely smells. I've been guilty of this too, but please just do your research if you're using these scent dupe, fragrance dupe companies. They make excellent imitations of, your brilliant Jo Malone, your Baccarat Rouge. They smell exactly the same, but please make sure that you're reading the ingredients, looking out for any harmful substances. Okay, and I will do my best to post back in here later today the names of the fragrances, or sorry, the names of the substances that you should be looking out for. So I always think it's useful to tell you why I'm asking you to do things. If you understand why and if you're bought into why, then there's more of a chance that you will actually do it. That's one of the kind of first things we learn when it comes to behavior change. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is chemicals found in our food. And again, if you open up Instagram, if you open up TikTok, even if you're watching this here on Facebook, it's not difficult to find influencers who are telling you that you need to eat all organic, you need to buy everything from the market, from the farm, you need to do this, you need to do that. Now, I would absolutely love if I was in a position to do that. If I was in a position to grow all my own vegetables, not use supermarkets, and, like all of my meat would be massaged by virgins, I would be like, yes, this is the best life ever. But in the real world, not all of us can do that. Okay. So when I talk about the food that we're consuming and the chemical exposure in there, I'm going to talk about things that we can do without it needing to cost us an absolute fortune. Okay. Because I can tell you right now, up you get, glass bottles for everything, organic, homemade, all of this. You're not going to do it, okay? But one small change at a time, you definitely can do. So when it comes to nutrition, I'm big on protein intake, and that's something that I'll talk about later on in this live. But beef is one of the biggest offenders, okay? When you are shopping, please buy the highest quality beef that you can, particularly if you are in the States or if you're in a country that doesn't have a great deal of regulation with its beef products. It is not uncommon at all for cows, cattle that are going to be farmed for beef to be injected with hormones, helps them grow faster because they're obviously born and reared only for one thing. Please, no judgments. I'm a carnivore. If you are not a carnivore, that's fantastic for you. But if you're a beef eater, please do your best to buy grass-fed beef. That will minimize the amount of hormones and chemical exposure and that you're taking in via that beef. There's lots of things we can do. As I say, if you can go all organic, if you can make friends with your nearest farmer, everything becomes organic and grass fed. That's wonderful. But if you can only change one thing in your nutrition, please look to your beef. Make sure that you're buying the best quality you possibly can, ideally grass fed. Okay. So that was a big one. I can't believe we're only at number 2 and I have been yakking at you for 30 minutes here. Again, if you're still with me, please chat along, please join in. Hi, Rayanne. You've said I constantly use plastic Rubberware for work lunches. Yep, I'm the same. I've done it. I've been there myself. Okay. So try your very best. If you need to use these, try to only store cold foods in them. And if you know that these have been used for heating food up in them in the past, get them straight into the bin. Okay? Even if you can only buy one dish, then please go out and buy that one dish. And if there's other people that live in your house, don't touch this dish. This is my dish. I need this for my lunches every day. There's no judgment here, Rianne, or anyone else who happens to be watching this. Pretty much everything that I'm about to tell you to do is because I've learned it the hard way. So there's no judgment. But if we know that it's harming our fertility and we keep doing it, then that's a bit daft, isn't it? That's a bit kind of fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on. Oh, okay, I got it wrong. Anyway, right, let's move on to number 3. This is number 3 of my top 5 things that you can do to improve your fertility that you do not need a doctor for or an IVF clinic, but quite crucially, it's things that only you can do. Nobody else can do these things for you. So number 3 is regular exercise. Okay. Now, I do not mean this only in terms of BMI. We will talk about body fat and nutrition when we talk about egg quality later on in this call. But when I talk about regular exercise, I'm talking about this in an overall fertility context. Okay. Regular exercise, it is absolutely undisputed that high stress levels, high cortisol levels are not good news when it comes to a fertility journey. And it is also equally well known that regular exercise is very, very good for managing our stress levels. Okay, now let's talk about what kind of exercise. A walk every day, 8 to 10,000 steps, out in nature if you can, just fresh air, absolutely fantastic. If you can't do any of these things, just walking about your house, putting on a walking workout on YouTube, just getting off of our bums. Now, this isn't specific to weight loss, but if you are watching this and you do want to lose some weight, I'm going to give you a statistic that I used to use all the time when I worked in weight loss and when I was helping women drop weight. So we have got there's if we think about movement, the movement of our body, and we split it into two different groups, okay? One group is what we do at the gym or when we go swimming or when we go to a spin class. This is our planned exercise, okay? And then the other group is getting up to go to the toilet, doing the dishes, fucking about with this, doing this, just the general movement that we do day to day in our lives. The first is called regular planned exercise. The second is called NEAT. Okay. If we have higher levels of NEAT, this is the movement that we do without even realizing it. This is the reason that flight attendants, window cleaners, people with more manual jobs seem to be able to just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. That's because their daily calorie burn is so much higher because of the movement that they're doing every day. So, to be absolutely clear, if you are looking to drop some weight, I don't necessarily think that you need to go out and buy a gym membership. The best thing you can do is walk. Walk more, get off your bum, walk places that, sorry, I've got something in my eye, walk places that you would normally drive, up and down the stairs, chase the dog about the garden, anything you can. Challenge yourself to get an extra 1,000 steps a day every week until you're regularly up at that 10,000. Because, see, once you get to that 10,000, you'll have started noticing a difference already and you will want to do it. And that's the key thing. Once you start to notice a difference in your energy levels, you're going to want to move more anyway. Okay? Now, it's no secret, my absolute favourite form of exercise is resistance training. I like to lift heavy. I like to go to the gym. That's just me. That's not everybody. Okay. Lucy, I'm just going to answer your comment here. Yes, this will absolutely be available to watch later, and I'm going to pin it in the featured section of the group. So you have a good shift and pop me a wee note if you've got any questions about what we're talking about. Okay, so back to what type of exercise. I like resistance training. I like that because it helps me feel strong. It doesn't get me all puffy in the face. It helps me maintain a good shape of my body. I like to grow muscle because it means I can consume more calories. And yeah, it's all good. That doesn't mean that because that's what I like, that that's what you need to do. Because Sandra in HR does this certain thing, it doesn't mean it's what you need to do. The exercise that you should be doing is something that you enjoy and that you can incorporate into your week. The magic number is 150. We really, really want you doing about 150 minutes per week of exercise to minimize your stress levels and make sure that your body is operating optimally. Okay. If that is a couple of Zumba classes and a line dancing class, that's fantastic. If it is swimming, that is fantastic. Just get off your bum. Now, if you are quite far into a fertility journey and you know that you are hyper stressed, and that makes probably, let's be real, if you've made it this far into this video, that probably is you. Then I personally don't recommend too many HIIT workouts, okay? When you see HIIT, it stands for high intensity interval training. So this is where there's an amount of time where you're at 100%, and then there's maybe a rest period where you're at, like, 10 to 20%. I'm not a fan of HIIT training because there's been several studies done to show that that can increase cortisol levels. And of course, that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So it almost feels like giving with one hand and taking with the other. So if possible, please don't do HIIT training. So, for example, clubber size class, anything where you're 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, where it's like 100 to 0. Please don't do that any more than once a week. Try and find something else that's a bit more sustainable for you, okay? But exercise, aside from the fact that we know that it is brilliant for keeping us strong, keeping us standing, obviously it's going to help us get through a healthy pregnancy as well. It's all about stress. Okay, exercise, regular exercise is excellent for helping us manage our stress levels. Which takes us beautifully, beautifully, beautifully to number 4. So this is number 4 on the things that I ask everyone to do, whether they're a paying client, whether they're someone that I've just just met off the street. 4 things that you should do, can do to optimize your fertility that you don't need a doctor for, okay? But these are things that only you can do, that a doctor can't do for you, okay? So number 4 is have a stress management plan, okay? Think about your stress levels as something that you need to manage as an ongoing thing. So I'm going to give you a scenario, okay? I'm going to use Rianne here because I can see Rianne's name in front of my screen. Imagine you're Rianne, okay? Imagine you are a solicitor. You graft your arse off 60 hours a week. You get up at 6 in the morning, you skip breakfast, you go to work, you work a mega, mega, mega long shift. Then you finish and you might go and do a gym class or you might go and meet some friends. Then you get a phone call from your mum, for example, and she stresses you out. You know that you're going to work tomorrow, you're really, really stressed. You really want to make a nice healthy meal, but you frankly don't have time because you're absolutely knackered and you're up at 6 o'clock the next day. On top of all this, you are managing a fertility journey. So people are going to come up to you, people that know about your fertility journey will say, oh, just don't worry about it. Just don't stress about it. Just relax. Just relax. Let's wage war on people saying, just relax. Just relax is one of the most unhelpful things anyone can say to a woman who is trying to conceive. She's navigating a very stressful situation and she doesn't know if there's ever going to be an end of it. And also, if there is an end, she doesn't know when that's going to be. It's isolating. She feels responsible and she doesn't know when it's going to end. And on top of that, she's grafting her arse off, putting on a brave face for everyone around her. So, sorry for getting a wee bit distracted there, but imagine you are Rianne, you're this successful solicitor. She doesn't want to tell her boss that she needs to minimize her hours because she doesn't want to need to tell them why, because she knows that if and when she does feel pregnant, she's going to want to have a job and she's going to want to be able to take maternity leave. And of course, if there is option for promotion, she would like to do that before she takes maternity leave. This is an absolute breeding ground for stress, 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 stress. Someone saying to Rianne, just relax, isn't helping. Going to one sound bath is maybe going to help her for that half an hour. But one-off interventions, a beautiful spa day that her husband buys her, how kind, how thoughtful, how lovely. Go eat your heart out, do that. But what I recommend to my clients, as opposed to kind of regular one-off things when we can feel that the shit's about to hit the fan, is to have a regular stress management plan. Okay. And by regular, I mean small things every day that she does that you can do to manage your stress. So we know that the voices in our heads absolutely become our reality. If we get so stressed out that we start telling ourselves, there's no point in doing this. I've been trying for 2 years. It hasn't worked yet. It's obviously never going to work. That narrative becomes, okay, it's obviously never going to work, so I'm going to have a cigarette, I'm going to have a glass of wine. That glass of wine easily becomes 2 glasses of wine. We start using the non-microwavable dishes again. We start, just doing things that we know that we shouldn't be doing. But if the voice in our heads is talking to us differently and saying, well done, You had protein with every meal yesterday. Well done. You might not have managed 10,000 steps yesterday, but you got 8, and it would have been very easy for you to sit in your arse and watch Netflix when you got home last night. Well done. You put a boundary up with your cousin who you know stresses you out. What this can be the same person having this, in the exact same scenario, having very different conversations with themselves. So when it comes to a stress management plan, I don't mean moving to a rehabilitation clinic. It would be great if we could all do that, but we can't. What I mean is having a couple of actions that you do every single day, and you understand that they are part of your ongoing stress management plan. Number one, daily gratitude. Start your day after you do your BBT. Think about 3 things that you are grateful for right now. They don't need to be enormous things. It can be that you've got milk in the fridge. It can be that you're lying next to someone you love. That's pretty massive. It might be that the sun's shining. It could be massive. It could be that you're going on holiday next week, or it could be that your dog's potty training well or house training. 3 things that put your mind in a good place before you get up and get your ass into that shower and decide to eat a breakfast instead of waking up and thinking, oh my God, here we go. Another shit day. I'm so tired. I can't be arsed with this. In the shower, no point having breakfast. Nothing's working anyway. I'll just have a coffee. I'll just have a coffee. I'll just have a coffee. This is us really, really understanding that the voice in our head makes a massive, massive difference to our stress levels and how we feel, and therefore our actions, both short term and long term. If you can afford, if you have time in your life to book in for a weekly massage, then that is fantastic. Go for it. But not all of us do. And if you don't, pick one thing that you can incorporate into your day today and make yourself do it every day for a week, okay? And see how much better you feel. I know that can sound like a lot, and I really, really hate sounding preachy on these lives, but I promise you it makes a massive difference. And then once you do that, that'll give you the confidence to do something else, to try something else, to try something else. Okay? Might be journaling, it might be taking a yoga class, it might be walking in nature, the big thing just now is cold water plunging. Full disclosure, I've never tried it. I would not be surprised if I never try it. It is not my bag at all, but a lot of people love it. Find something that you can incorporate into your day and your week and feel proud of yourself for doing it. Okay? Start small and then build from there. Okay? I need a drink. I have been talking solid now for a long time. Okay, number 5. So we are on to the 5th thing in my list of 5 things that I recommend all women who are trying to conceive do, that they don't need help from a doctor for, and that a doctor can't actually do for them. This is the things that only you can do for you. And it wouldn't be a fertility mentor live without me talking about egg quality and therefore leading into that nutrition. So for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, when I talk about egg quality, this is us understanding that we are born with all of the eggs that we are ever going to have. The day that we are born, we have all of the eggs. That number will only ever go down, okay? The quantity of our eggs will never go up, it will only go down, okay? And after we reach the age of 35, it starts to go down fairly quickly. But what not enough people are talking about is the quality of our eggs. Okay? We can increase the quantity. We cannot make more eggs, but we can increase the quality of our eggs. We're sitting here in 2025. A lot of us are children of the 80s, so we have been brought up with our food being microwaved on these plastic dishes. We have been brought up with Febreze everywhere. A lot of us are from the ladette culture. I know I certainly am. You know, the binge drinking, smoking, going to Ibiza, all these things. These things damage your eggs, okay? But a common misconception is that the damage is done and that's it, but that's not the case at all. We have a 3-month window between immature follicle and mature egg where we can make changes to our body, our vessel, our hormones to actually improve the outcome of these eggs, to make them more likely to implant, less likely to miscarry, sorry. So this 3 months, but while the egg is growing, while the egg is maturing, this is when all the chromosomal sorting happens. And we know that a lot of miscarriages happen due to chromosomal abnormalities. Down syndrome is probably the one that we know most about, or the kind of most common that you've probably heard of. In this 3 months before an egg is ovulated, if we can get in there, minimize chemicals, make sure we're well hydrated, make sure our vessel is in good shape, and eat well, then we are doing a massive, massive, massive service to our fertility, our ability to conceive, and our ability to minimize miscarriage. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about nutrition here. And when I talk about nutrition, I do not specifically mean BMI. Okay, that is a whole other conversation. It's a whole other live that I'd be very, very happy to do talking about BMI and fertility. But I am not specifically talking about nutrition for BMI here. I'm talking about nutrition for egg quality. For egg quality and for balancing our hormones, we really need to be eating minimum 3 meals a day. We do not want to be over restricting. In each meal, we want to be eating from three of the main food groups. Okay, so we've got macronutrients and we've got micronutrients. Macro means big. The three big nutrients are carbohydrates, fats, and protein. In the Western world, we are typically very, very good at consuming carbs. We're not particularly good at consuming the right carbs. Okay? In Western nutrition, although we are getting better at it, children of the 80s, dietary fat was the enemy, wasn't it? Our mums probably took us to Weight Watchers. We saw our parents counting points. What they're actually counting is dietary fat intake. What I'm here to say is please, please, please do not fear dietary fats. Dietary fats are essential for helping our eggs to grow and for regulating our hormones. But what's really important to understand is the right fats versus the wrong fats. I talk about a red, amber, green system. The reds are trans fats, which we don't actually find a great deal anymore. We don't need to worry about them a great deal. They're often found in things like deep fried items and pastries sometimes have trans fats. So these we should be avoiding like the plague. Amber is our animal fats. So things like cheese, things like even egg yolks, they have good sides and not so good sides. They do up cholesterol, but they can up good cholesterol as well as bad cholesterol. When I talk about dietary fats and when I talk about my clients needing to get their dietary fats up, I'm specifically talking about the greens. Okay. So this is our lovely, lovely plant-based fats that are liquid at room temperature. So think of things like extra virgin olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado, oily fish. These are phenomenal for our fertility. Okay. And then the third macronutrient is protein. Now, I talk a lot up to my clients about upping protein, and that is the same whether they are looking to lose weight, gain weight. Upping protein is useful for most women, unless you're, a bodybuilder or unless you have already, worked with a coach and you know that you're getting enough protein. Most women vastly overestimate the amount of protein they're consuming and therefore are not consuming nearly enough. Protein is responsible for the growth of every cell in our body, including our eggs, including our skin. We need protein for growth. We need protein for cell creation. Okay. And just to be absolutely clear, a really, really common example when I first start working with someone is I don't give them loads of tasks to start with. I'll just say to them, okay, go off next week and make sure you have a portion of protein in every meal, and they'll come back and I'll look at their food diary. And again, there's no shame in this. I haven't told her not to do this yet. but she'll have breaded chicken strips. Okay, so let me just go into my fitness pal just now. I'll go to foods. Again, I'm sorry I can't share my screen. I'm just not techy enough. So, Tesco breaded chicken strips. So this lady, if we think about her, I've said to her, have your carbs, have your veg, have your dietary fats, and have at least one portion of good protein a day, per meal. Okay. So in her mind, her protein portion is coming from the chicken strips. Okay. But what she doesn't understand is that this actually isn't a protein source. If I was to look at it right now, 248 calories, a third of them are coming from dietary fats, and it's not the dietary fats we want. A third of them are coming from carbohydrates because the breadcrumb is so densely put together, and only a third of that meal is coming from protein. Okay, so that's in her mind her protein source. And then on that plate, she's also having extra carbohydrates and extra dietary fats. So please, 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 you don't need to use my fitness pal. You don't need to be as much of a geek as me about it. But please do understand what an actual protein source is and what people are talking about when they say protein. It needs to be the most dominant thing in your meal. Okay. It needs to be for something to be a protein source. When you look at the nutritional info in the back, here in the UK, most things will show you per 100 grams. You want protein, the amount of grams of protein to be the biggest there, and you want it to be at least double what the dietary fats are, gram for gram. And that's how you know that that is, dominant in protein. Excellent sources of protein are Greek yogurt, egg whites, chicken breast, seitan if you are vegan, but seitan is very, very heavy in gluten. So if you're anti-gluten, or if you think you might be celiac or gluten intolerant, avoid like the plague. But nutrition wise, as I say, putting BMI aside, even if you don't need to lose weight, even if you don't need to gain weight, if you are at a perfect weight, please make sure that you are having a breakfast every day. You're having a lunch and a dinner, and that each of those meals contains a good portion of protein, healthy fats, where possible, slow release carbohydrates. So, wholemeal, slow release here. So, think brown rice, brown pasta. Sourdough breads can be quite high in protein as well. And then you really want to get as much veggies or berries in there as you possibly can. And that's taking care of the micronutrients. So I'm conscious that I have been talking here for nearly an hour, and I very, very much appreciate everyone who's managed to be here so far. If you do watch this on the replay, I appreciate more people will be watching the replay than the live version. Please do jump in and comment, and please tag me to make sure that I actually see it. I hope you found this really, really useful. As always, I like these masterclasses to be more of a conversation. So please agree, disagree, message me, comment, tell me what works for you. Let's make this a kind of open discussion. Okay. So I'm sending everyone here lots and lots of love. My name is Claire Innes. I am the founder of the Fertility Mentor. I have lots of resources for women who are trying to conceive, and they range from being completely free support groups, completely free courses, to women who simply don't have more time to waste, and they need to work with me on a one-to-one basis, everything in between. So feel free to reach out anytime, and wishing you an absolutely fantastic day. Bye.